Today's topic is being relationally intentional. I'm here today with Josh Polly. Josh serves with the Arizona Fellowship of Christian Athlete in Northern Arizona. Josh is a former collegiate track and cross-country athlete at Dallas Baptist University.
Yep.
And I never understood a sport where you just continue to run, and as a football player, there was nobody to hit in the end. That's troublesome for me. But
the problem, Mike, is you got to be fast enough to catch us. So I don't know if you're going to grab me there.
That's not true. Relationally intentional. I used to wear a band on my arm that said "Be intentional." And I love that word about being intentional about something. And you and I were talking earlier about being recruited as college athletes.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you would get letters, you'd be communicating with coaches. You felt valued. You felt pursued through that whole process. And if you were fortunate enough, you got invited on an official visit. And on these visits, they would host you. You'd be paired maybe with a teammate or somebody that's part of that program, and you'd spend a day with them. And you'd go around with the team on campus. I remember going to a cookout with the coaches and these athletes and just spending time. And you were the star of the show. You know, you were one that was being pursued and valued. And once I got to college, I was able to host people in that same sense and kind of return that favor and share some of that joy of that process.
Yeah. As an athlete, everybody loves being recruited. I mean, that feeling of being wanted. So you know the school's intentional because they want you.
Yes.
And so how did that affect your life first?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that really stands out to me is the idea of pursuing people.
Yeah.
You know, if these schools waited for you to reach out to them, you'd never land anywhere. They're taking that first step. They're not letting their status or their schedule keep them from finding you.
Yeah.
And that always stands out to me because I think that's how we should lead as biblical leaders, is we should host people, we should pursue people in that same sense.
Well, you're walking right into how that has major spiritual, implications. And so tell us a little bit about how that translates in your walk.
I think for me, the biggest thing that stands out is John chapter 4, where Jesus is walking and he stops at a well in Samaria. And there's a woman there. It says it's at noon and Jesus is tired. And that always resonates with me because you have the Son of God who actually has a feeling there that he's tired. But he doesn't let that stop him from initiating conversation with this woman who frankly is an outcast. She's somebody who, she's there by herself. She's living in sin. And Jesus knows this. Yet he still initiates with her. He says, hey, can you get me some water? And she says, you're a Jewish man and you're asking me for water. And then he connects with her and he says, if you knew who I was, you would be asking me for water because I have eternal water. I have water that you will never thirst of again. And then they begin a dialogue and they go back and forth. And he says, hey, I know that you don't have just one husband. You have many. But he doesn't let that keep him from building a relationship with her. It resonates with her so much, Mike, that it says she goes and she shares this conversation with the people in town. And because of her testimony, they all come to the well to see Jesus, and they come to know him as well.
Yeah. I just love the fact that he meets us where we're at, just as we are.
Sure.
That's the beauty of knowing Jesus. What are a few thoughts as we walk this out on how to be relationally intentional?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say you have to initiate, take that first step with people. Second, you have to connect. You have to be able to meet people where they're at and relate to them in that sense. And the last thing is you have to be able to direct. And when you're directing, you're giving people a next step to take, whether that's you following up with them or them hopping in scripture or following back up with you.
Jesus was intentional with the woman at the well, and he certainly wanted to direct her to living water to himself. So that intentionality had purpose. And so we challenge all of you guys in all of your relationships and all you're doing is to be relationally intentional.